What's up, guys? It's Akemi, and this is Akemi Kai Creations, where we improve our outer world by improving our inner world. I like to talk about law of assumption and inner work. So today, what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to show up and talk about some common TikTok BS that I've been seeing about avoidance and the avoidant anxious trap. You know, I don't know about you, but for a time I got really hooked into watching TikTok Taro. And, it's fine, right? Wherever you're at, it's cool. I think it serves a purpose for a bit. But at some point you realize that like when you're flipping, when you're scrolling, you're accepting whatever narrative you stop on and you listen to. You're like taking that narrative in and making that your own. And I think there's a trap there, and I think that's a real problem because you want to be the one creating the narrative. You don't want to be scrolling TikTok and like listening to your doubts and fears and checking what resonates and then taking that narrative, right? So, like, I'll give you an example. Say you are working on manifesting an SP, right? So you've got somebody in your life that you're really wanting to date. They're at a distance or they're in some kind of they're unavailable. Okay, for some reason they're unavailable, and you're really fixating on that person. You're going to want to listen to, like, I've got a lot of other videos on this channel that are about this topic, so maybe just after this you can go through and listen to those other ones as well, because it's really going to help you out. So back to this topic. Say you're like pining for this person. You haven't heard from them. They're not texting you back. Or maybe you're in no contact or you have them blocked or whatever's going on. If you're scrolling the TikTok newsfeed and all these tarot readings are coming up because the AI algorithm is like recommending tarot readings to you because you watch tarot all the time. And if you have this mindset where you're like, oh, if it's in my FYP, it must be for me. Yeah, that's a little bit dangerous, right? Because you're not using discernment about what's for you and what's not for you. But even more so, you're giving your power away, right? Because you're looking outside yourself for someone else to tell you a narrative that you're going to take on and make your story. Like, you're going to take the narrative that they spin for you and make that your story about your situation, right? And if you're in no contact with this person, that's especially dangerous because you don't actually know what's going on with them. Like, you can't see them. You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know why they're not responding to you or what they're up to. You don't know how they think. And let's be real. You can never know what anybody else is thinking about you. You can never know. You can never like climb inside somebody else's head and know what they're thinking. So in some ways, these like TikTok tarot readings, like they appeal to this like part of us that's just like craving for validation, really. Because what would the ultimate reading be? Like the ultimate reading would be like, oh, they're crazy about me, right? Like they're thinking about me all the time, and everything they think about me is amazing because they think that I'm perfect. Like they're not mad at me, they're not avoiding me, like they adore me, right? They think I'm fantastic, like everything about me is great, and um they're just not reaching out to me or responding to my text right now because like something's going on with them, and they just like it's not, they're busy, or it's not a priority, like they're focused on something else. It's not personal, right? That would be the ultimate narrative that would make you feel the best, right? It would make you feel the most confident. It would make you feel the most secure. It would make you feel the most calm so that you could like put your phone down and go do something for yourself without having this constant anxiety. Like, I can't relax until this person like messages me back or something. Like, I just have this deep anxiety that like I can't focus on anything else because I have this fear that if I stop focusing on this thing, like at some base level, like you're dealing with like a very young part of yourself, right? So it's like I'm gonna fucking die if this person like doesn't validate me, like they don't reach out and like let me know that I'm okay and that everything's okay with us and like they love me and we're good. Some part of me is just gonna freak out. So what happens? You've got all these like fears and doubts and you're spiraling or whatever. And you start scrolling through TikTok and you see these readings, okay? And they're like third party, karmic. The person that you like is, out with somebody else, that they're having sex with somebody else. They're sleeping with other people. You know, they have addictions. They're going to, I'm just like spewing off some of the thousands of like TikTok tarots I've watched that say this stuff, right? Like they tell you these narratives, like the person that you're pining for, like they're not getting back to you because they're with a third party. What's the third party like? Oh, it's an addiction they have. Oh, they're having financial trouble. Oh, they got someone else pregnant. Oh, they're like having an affair at work. They're you know, what else have I seen? Anyway, you get the idea. When you're in a state of fear and you're not feeling safe and you're not feeling like content and you're not feeling like validated in yourself that you're okay and that your relationship with this person is okay and that like you have a bond with this person that's like okay, like you don't have to worry about it. If you're not in that state, you're in a state of fear and your worrying is just going off the chart, right? And you're spiraling. And so you grab one of those narratives and you start listening. And the longer that you listen to the TikTok tarot and the more of that story that unfolds for you, you're just like, you're eating it. Like you're just like eating it in. Like you're making it yours. Like, and then you're making it a part of you. And that is a dangerous thing to do because you have no way of knowing that that narrative that's being spun by that tarot reader has anything to do with you or your story or your person. Like there is no, like if you got your person in the room right in front of you, sitting down right in front of you and could talk to them and they could tell you like why they didn't message you back. Like I'm pretty much guaranteed that it wasn't any of the reasons for the things that you've been watching on TikTok. Like pretty much I can tell you that that's all BS. And you're like poisoning yourself. You're like eating poison by watching those stories. Because those TikTokers, those tarot readers, they don't know you. They don't know your person. That narrative that they're spinning is just a story. It could be one story out of a myriad of timelines that are out there that you have access to. And you make it real by taking it and eating it in and feeding your psyche with that. And what are you doing? You're feeding your fear, you're feeding your doubt, you're feeding your low self-esteem, you're feeding your crappy self-image, which is at the root of this problem anyway. So on this channel, like I talk a lot about this. It's a real problem today. And it's like TikTok is full of stuff that's going to feed your doubt, feed your fear, feed your crappy narratives about relationships, feed your crappy relationships about men, who they are, about women, who they are, and just like completely reinforce your beliefs that men and women can't get along, that they don't like each other, that they're like toxic, and that relationships can't work out the way that you deeply long for in your life. Like, feeding yourself with that stuff all day long when you're scrolling, it's not going to get you to that deep heart desire that you have, right? Which is you have actually arising in your human animal body like this very real and very valid desire to pair bond, which is like birds do it, you know? Animals out there are pair bonding, right? You're an animal too, and you have a very human, natural desire to pair bond. It's not bad, it's not wrong, it's not toxic. It doesn't mean you don't love yourself. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, right? But you've got all this baggage from your trauma and your horrible examples of bad marriages or divorced parents or whatever growing up from people who just didn't know any better. And you need some new information and you need some new skills and you need some like new habits and you need some discipline for what you're feeding, right? What you're feeding yourself with. So my hope is that this channel will be that for you for as long as you need it. And you can, binge watch videos on repeat until it sinks in, which is what I've done on my journey, is like find what I needed and like watch it over and over and over until I get the mindset shift that I need, right? That's what we do for each other. And so my intention is that this channel will do that for you for the topics that you need at the time in your life that you need it. And so you can look through the content, and I'm going to be uploading a lot of content just on these subjects that are so kind of popular online today, like in the social dialogue. And what I'm wanting to do is just like bring clarity and support to heal people's hearts, to like stop you from spiraling, to be real about what's really going on, and to like bring you out of like this crazy victim state into a place where you can be accountable. Because so the reason why Akemi Creations is inner beauty, fixing your outer world by fixing your inner world, is because the only thing that you can control is you. You can't control what's going on out there by trying to control it and manipulate it, right? I mean, there's a lot of that content on TikTok. That'll take you down a rabbit hole, but it won't make you happy. This is not about manipulations. This is not about like being fake and texting certain scripts and, oh God, I'm just making myself sick even talking about this. Texting scripts to people to try to get the result you want. Or say this to them. Do this to them. And dark psychology that's out there right now where it's like acting these ways, do these behaviors that actually hook people to you using trauma bonding, that like actually manipulates their trauma wounds and stuff like that. That's so toxic. Like, is that really what we want to pass on to the next generation? I don't think so. So this channel is about cleaning up your self-concept, deeply examining your beliefs about yourself and others, and taking a radical accountability for what's going on in your inner world and cleaning it up in order to improve what's going on out there. So that's why I talk about law of assumption, and I'm referring to Neville Goddard. And you can go on YouTube and you can watch his source material for yourself. And I recommend you go to the sources that I'm using, okay, for yourself, and really dig into them if they speak to you. So, law of assumption, Neville Goddard. You can look at his stuff on YouTube anytime, and that's what I'll be referring to. I'll also be referring to shadow work that I myself have gone through and done, and techniques that I've found really helpful. Improving your relationship skills and how you relate to other people, which is some training that none of us got in school or growing up, and our parents probably don't know, and our grandparents didn't know. And I'm getting that from Laura Doyle, and you can go check that out too. She's got a great podcast. Her podcast is targeted mostly on marriage and marriage counseling for women, but I am adapting her work to be useful for singles and younger generations who aren't married yet, or maybe, just in dating or single. I'm not an accredited coach with hers, so I'm just sharing from my personal experience. I've been in her group coaching 3 different times, and I've been watching her podcasts and participating in her community for probably about 5 or 6 years, something like that. And then also Compassion Key Work by Edward Mannix. So this is really useful it's basically like self-hypnosis. So you're going to find within the law of assumption community that a lot of people are doing work on hypnosis, self-hypnosis. It's really, really helpful. You can do it with someone. You can go to a hypnosis practitioner, or you can learn how to do self-hypnosis. And I've done both. I have trained, I have a certification in a technique where I can offer sessions to other people, and I also can do the self-hypnosis work alone when I want to at home. So if that's something you're interested in, you can also go check that out. And you'll find that I refer to those things when I'm talking. So if you're ever, wanting to know where they are, you can just go look them up, or you can drop a note in the comments and I'll answer you and kind of shoot you in the right direction. So I'm going to leave you with a little nugget today before I close this video. And so I want to ask you to think for a second, like, what is an avoidant? Like, that word's thrown around so much today, right? Oh, our relationship didn't work out because he's avoidant. Or he's not responding to me because he's an avoidant, And you'll see a ton of content on TikTok about avoidance, and there's a lot of books being written about avoidance, like it's kind of a buzzword these days. So an avoidant, I guess, according to that, like, common belief right now would be like somebody who experienced trauma during their childhood and they have like a low capacity for intimacy, for emotional intimacy. So they tend to like not, avoid conflict in relationships, not want to talk about problems when they come up, like basically avoid, right? Avoid conflict, avoid discussion, avoid going deeper in relationship, avoid commitment, whatever. That's kind of like the way that society right now talks about this type of person, right? So I just want to give you like a different perspective and a different way of looking at it. I want you to consider that maybe you can even think about someone in your life that you know right now, or somebody that you've dealt with in the past that kind of wrote them off as like they're an avoidant. Like, just think about that. And then I want you to kind of try on this perspective, and I'm going to leave it with you. So maybe after you are finished this video, you can kind of chew on it for a while. So I want you to think that perhaps an avoidant is actually somebody who, when they were a child, in a certain stage of development, where they didn't yet have their own ego formed to the point where they had learned how to emotionally regulate for themselves. Okay, I'm a teacher, so little kids before a certain age, like you'll see them having fits and flipping out and having all kinds of emotional tantrums and stuff. And it's that they don't have a container yet for their emotions, right? They haven't learned how to process or contain their emotions. And so the adults around them or the teachers at school have to kind of create that container for them, right? And like be calm and hold a baseline and like help them experience the intense emotion that's moving through their body right now and give them the message that like that emotion that they're feeling is okay, like it's human, it's normal, it's okay to feel whatever it is, sadness, anger, fear, whatever that is going on for them. And also that adult performs a function for them of regulation, right? And that dynamic between a smaller person and a grown up is a very important experience for young children to have, which teaches them how to emotionally self-regulate as they go through puberty and become adults later on. So I want you to go back to this idea of an avoidant, and I want you to imagine someone who, as a child, had a mother. Let's say, I'm just going to make up a story. Let's say the parents were fighting all the time and they went through a divorce during the time this kid was like, I don't know, below the age of 7, okay, somewhere between 3 and 7. The parents are fighting all the time and flipping out and yelling and screaming in the house around them and go through a divorce. And then the mother is super upset all the time and she just like vents all over this kid. Let's say it's a boy, okay? Let's say it's a little boy and he's got a mother who starts like crying and flipping out, yelling, getting really angry, shaming, screaming, yelling if he does something wrong, crying and being super emotional and not having any like boundaries around how she expresses her intense feelings around her son. She just like vents her emotional garbage all over him all the time below the age of 7, let's say. And then let's say after the divorce and her husband is no longer in the home, she starts like going to that son all the time and like talking all the time about the dad and like how he's done this or that wrong and how it's making her so sad and how he's such a bad guy and like treating that little boy like an adult female confidant when he's below the age of 7. And like unloading a ton of like her female emotional content all over this little boy who hasn't yet hit an age where he's developed his own emotional container and his own ability to self-regulate. So now he's getting flipped out on all the time with all of these wild, out, over-the-top emotions by his mother, and he's also being made responsible for meeting her emotional needs when she's upset. And he starts to feel responsible for calming her down, making her feel better. He starts feeling it personally when she's really lonely or really sad. And as a little kid, like little kids make everything their responsibility, right? So he starts feeling, number one, completely overwhelmed by her emotional states. that flood him and his nervous system, and he hasn't got any way to regulate because she's not performing the function of self-regulating and then teaching him how to regulate, right? And there's nobody there for him to co-regulate with. So he's flooded, he's overwhelmed by all this emotional content. And he feels at the same time like deeply responsible for her happiness. Okay, so now I want you to fast forward that little boy into a relationship in his 20s, 30s with a girl who isn't creating a container around her emotions, and she just flips out when she has her period. She yells, she screams, she vents, she rages whenever she feels like it. She picks fights with him whenever she gets drunk at the bar. She has meltdowns and cries and expects him to be the guy who like comforts her and makes it better. She's like codependent with him and expects him to make her happy because she doesn't know how to make herself happy, and she thinks it's his responsibility to make her happy, and if she's unhappy, she blames him. I want you to start thinking about how in our culture we've been raised by parents that didn't do a good job of processing their own emotions, and they vented them all over us as kids. They might have hit us when they were angry. They shouted at us when they were mad. They blamed us for things when we didn't do it because they just needed to take out their bad moods. They weren't teaching us how to self-regulate our own nervous systems and deal with our own emotions. And then you grow up and you get in a relationship and you've got two people who don't know how to do that, and they just start barfing their emotional garbage all over. And who is going to be the person who like takes responsibility for the regulation of the nervous system and like putting a container around the emotions? Like, who's going to be doing that? And I want you to consider the fact that the avoidant in that situation, whether it's a female or male, doesn't matter, is the person who's like, well, there's so much emotional craziness going on right in this moment, and I'm being completely flooded and triggered like I was when I was a kid, and the best thing for me to do in this situation to not hurt anybody or make this any worse is to stop talking and leave this room and maybe get in my car and go drive somewhere. And so that's why they're avoiding conflicts. I think that in our culture today, people are painting this dynamic between two people with an avoidant and an anxious as this anxious person who's like angelic and perfect and totally reasonable in their needs and desires, and this avoidant is just so horrible and selfish and narcissistic and isn't like willing to show up for me or go through conflicts or meet my needs. Meet your own needs. Learn how. It's your responsibility, actually. You need to know how to make yourself happy. You need to know where you end and where the other person begins. And you need to be able to treat other people with respect and decency and not be venting your emotional outbursts and storms all over other people. That's rude. You're not entitled to do that, okay? You're not. You're not entitled to do that. So, if you're an anxious person trying to manifest an SP that you think is an avoidant, the beginning of the work is going to be taking some steps back. Stop making that person responsible for your happiness. Stop needing that person to do this, to text you, to validate you when you feel insecure. Stop making them responsible for meeting those emotional needs that you're not meeting for yourself. There's all these cliches. I know they're really hard to understand. I know you hear them over and over and you're just like, it's like sand in your mouth at some point, like, just love yourself. It doesn't even make sense if you don't really know what the process is, you know? It's like, just love yourself. What does that even mean? Like, what does it even mean? Just love yourself. Like, I like myself enough. Like, why, why can't I get a guy to commit to me or whatever? What do you mean, love myself? I just want someone else to love me, right? But the exploration is separating yourself, like creating some boundaries, like here is where I end and where anyone else that I encounter begins. And there's like a difference between my space and theirs. And my duty in life is to like treat every other person with basic dignity and respect, whether I agree with them or not. They're entitled to their own path and their own experience, right? And I'm entitled to mine. And nobody is owes me. Nobody owes me. Nobody is, it's not their responsibility to make me happy. It's not their responsibility to validate me when I feel insecure. It's not their responsibility. Like we're walking through life like toddlers who haven't gone through the emotional regulation and nervous system um, co-regulation process. And so now we're adults in our relationships and we don't know how to function. But it's very easy to call somebody a narcissist or an avoidant and blame them while not looking at yourself and like not taking any responsibility for what kind of emotional storms are you having? Are you a rager? Like if somebody got you on video, would you be embarrassed of how you were acting in that moment? Or do you hide that part and just say that the other person's an avoidant? Like when you're flipping out and insisting that somebody stay there and listen to you and get to the root of the problem, like, if you could see that on video, would you look like an abusive person? How would you like to be on the receiving end of the behavior that you're dishing out? Okay, so this channel is going to be like talking about how to just like create some space between you and other people and just like do the self work. Like, how do I look at myself? How do I find out what my underlying assumptions are? If I want to do law of assumption manifestation, how do I even know what my self concept is, right? That's what this channel is about. That's what I'm talking about. That's what this is for. So if you're somebody who's on fire to do that kind of self work and change your life out there by changing your life in here, then you're going to love the content on this channel. And if not, that's cool. There's a lot of content out there. You can just go where you feel drawn. I'm not here to argue with anybody. I'm here to share like what's interesting to me and what I'm working on and what I've done myself that's worked. So I look forward to sharing that content. I hope that you find it useful. I hope that it inspires you. I hope that it supports you when you are feeling down, feeling low, frustrated, and don't have any options and can't quite figure something out. I hope that you will find some little tidbits that help you get unstuck. And yeah, I hope you have a great day and I hope you enjoy the content on this channel. And I'll see you in the next video.